Drop a note in Slack. Is that what you were saying?
I'm on it.
All right, do you want me to kick this off then?
Sure. Fire away.
Hello, everyone. This is a meeting of the Node tooling group. It's Friday, June 25th. Thanks for joining us. Small group today. So yeah, let's take a look here. What do we have on the agenda? So it looks like first up there was this discussion about, do we want to use ESLint or something to maybe point out packages that have been sort of pulled into Node. I think I would say that was not well received, although it was really only, I think it was Jordan that was kind of giving feedback on it, and he definitely had some valid feedback there. So I'm not really sure how to proceed with that. I don't know if we really should,
Yeah.
I guess like to summarize, I think like basically his kind of main argument was like doing anything that deters people from using a package that like a external contributor has made seems like kind of the wrong move.
Mm-hmm.
So, it looks like Darcy's.
Oh.
So yeah, anyways, that's a fair point. And like, honestly, I'm not really sure what the path forward would be there. And I would still like to do something there. Like it would be really nice. It's kind of a bit frustrating if we're like building these new things into Node and then people don't know about them, so don't use them, but I honestly have no idea how to address that in like a way that would make everyone happy.
I have a suggestion. Maybe we close this issue and just open up a new issue that's more generic. Like how do we alert people to these new features? And then we can kind of brainstorm there and figure out what might be good.
Yeah, that is a good idea, I think.
That makes sense. I'll stop solutioneering on this one then.
Yeah, okay. I think that's a good way to handle that. So let's, I guess moving on. Next on the agenda, recursive copy. I have not made any progress on that.
Oh, sorry, Anna, I didn't mean to talk over you.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I had kind of mentioned, I think in a previous call, I'm actually a little bit more interested in working on the command line argument parsing right now. And I think we kind of decided as a group that that's where we should focus our effort in the short term. So yeah, no updates from me on the recursive copy.
I'd be willing to take a stab, do a little bit of footwork on the recursive copy because I'm a little excited about this as a kind of rounding out the set of really common unit testing helpers. I would love it. I think because it's convenient. You can copy a fixtures folder over and then use recursive remove to get rid of it when you're done testing. Like I think between McDerp and RimRaf and recursive copy, I feel like it's a really elegant unit testing, which I like. So
yeah, it does. It definitely fits nicely into our whole recursive story. So yeah.
I think I'm looking to pick up something like it looks like UID ships in 30 days, and that was like my big open source project. So I'm looking for something new. I think that would be good.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Okay, well let's move on from that for now then. I guess next on the agenda was a better way to detect a process is exiting. I think Ben, you had originally said you were interested in that.
I'm interested, but have not done any work on it at all.
Fair.
And I think in the grand scheme of things, I've become less interested in this with my hacks working currently. So it feels like maybe it's a problem that only comes up for like for people who are actually writing Mocha or NYC or C8. Maybe it's not a problem that the whole community has. I don't know.
Right. Okay.
I don't know if
I too am interested in many things and have not had time to work on them. So
Not an uncommon problem.
yeah, exactly. Okay, let's move on to source map v3 support. You said you had a couple developments on this, Ben?
couple bug fixes, and kind of they patch a really glaring kind of just hard failure for users, but I think both my fixes aren't perfect. Let me see here. Basically, the exception that we don't properly apply source map logic to our helper message that we show if you've screwed up an ESM import, which we didn't notice until ESM started getting adopted, but it's actually not easy to do that. So kind of a request for help. If anyone's looking for a place to contribute to source maps, I left some to-dos in that first link I shared. And what was the other bug? Oh, source map rekey logic didn't work if you throw a string or number. It's just a really weird bug I hadn't noticed. And it doesn't seem like we even need the rekey logic anymore, so I just deleted it. So that's more boring. So shows people are using, the good thing is it shows people are using the source maps, I suppose. So two weird edge cases. So that's just an update. I fixed 2 bugs for source maps. One of them is not the ideal solution, so there's room for someone to swoop in and contribute to the to-do comment if they want to learn about source maps in Node.js. It's one of those ones where it sounds simple, and then I think it's a giant pain in the neck to fix properly, though. So,
Yeah, I was just looking at your comment here.
I think basically the way to fix it would be, so I'm paging this back into memory. My brain's just warming up. Basically, you failed to import a module. We aren't able to remap to the appropriate line. The issue is that the way that the module loader system works, if a module fails to load, I believe it never gets cached. So there's there's nothing for us to kind of tie the file name onto, because it's no longer exists. So what I've seen done elsewhere is people put a hidden key on the error object, which has meta information about the error that was just thrown, which you could then use to do the source map logic. I don't know, that's one potential
Would that be
improvement.
a file reference that you would like add, or yeah.
Yeah, because I think what basically happened, as far as I can tell, like just looking through the error, there's basically no way for me to say this exception originated from a file called foo.js. That was an easy. So what would be, the ideal would be when the exception occurs, there's some way I can go from that exception back to foo.js, at which point I can say, oh, foo.js has a source map tied to it, so I can grab it. Seemed like that information is just not there. So it's absolutely an edge case, though. It's basically if you import and export that doesn't even exist on the module, this is when this error happens. Because it happens.
What's the error look like though?
Now it looks reasonable. It says like failed to import this symbol. But before it basically threw an error in our source map handling rather than an error in the ESM import. Basically what happens, if you import a non-existing symbol from an ESM module, we actually capture it in Node.js and write a nicer error message that points like a little pointer and says, here's what you failed to import. It's on this line of code. This code looks wrong. What was happening with source maps is that whole stack relied on some shenanigans that don't work when you hit the source map handling part of the code base. So what we had to do is throw that nicety where it says, here's the exact place where the import didn't exist. So you still get a nice error message. We just don't point an arrow at the import statement where it went wrong. So the nice thing to do would be we actually are smart enough to find the source map, remap the source file, and say here's where the import was wrong, and we're actually showing you in your original TypeScript file. We're not showing you in the transpiled JavaScript file. So it's kind of like the long tail of, if you're using source maps, you should always be told what happened in your original code, not your transpiled code is the goal. Another long-standing open thing in that category is, I think in the terminal, we don't properly work for thrown exceptions in the terminal either, because they do a bunch of rewriting of exceptions as well. So if anyone's listening on YouTube and you want to contribute to Node, it would be good to have another person who's excited about this part of the code base.
When you say in the terminal, do you mean the REPL?
Yeah, the other REPL. There's another kind of outstanding issue where I think you kind of, when you throw an exception in the REPL, you go through this different code path where it does some REPL specific prettification of the error, I believe, and that's not quite in sync with the source map logic, I don't think. It used to be a bug. So
I've been trying to use the REPL more lately, and I've noticed there are apparently many outstanding issues with it. So it doesn't really surprise me.
Cool. That's mostly an FYI. I think those bugs are almost patched. So
okay. I guess next, if we're done with that topic, next up is argument parsing. Everyone's favorite.
Yeah, it's a good one. But I don't have any news. I'm looking forward to having news, and I'm hoping to have more time Thursday of next week and beyond. But up until then, I don't think I'll have any time to work on this.
I have a sort of somewhat crazy related idea.
Oh.
I know the CFP for NodeConf Remote, which I think used to be NodeConf EU.
Yep.
It was actually coming up like right away here, and I think they extended it to July 30th, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, good.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I thought like something like the argument parsing could make an interesting talk. I don't think we'll have it landed in Node by then, but even if we had our sort of like polyfill and like, you know, if it was working the way we kind of expected it to work and had like proposed it, I think even that could be, you know, enough for a talk on that subject. And it could also, you know, give us a bit of a deadline to work towards, which I know for me definitely helps.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Deadlines are crucial. Is it something that you would propose, or are you just suggesting it?
I mean, it could go either way. I would feel, I mean, at least up to this point, I haven't been as involved as other people in the argument parsing work. So I would maybe feel a little bit weird presenting about it. But on the other hand, I mean, maybe I will be helping out more here over the next couple months. So
could you put it forward as a panel discussion? That could even be interesting, because you could kind of play off each other on it if they're doing that type of talk.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they are, but that's not a bad idea. We could also do it potentially like, you know, a couple of us could get up there and talk about it. Maybe I'll work on putting something together for a proposal, and we can kind of figure it out after that, like who's going to do this, or and I'll check it out and see what they have for, yeah, like what if they're looking for like panel type discussions or just talks or what.
Sounds good.
Okay, yeah, I'll follow up with more info.
It seems like it's just a fun talk, especially if you like kind of dive into just how different people call these things different things and flags, and you know. Does
that sound fun?
I feel like it's like one could make it fun.
Okay.
Laugh at ourselves and our developer.
Semantics 101. Here you go. That's what you call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I also just wanted to bring that up because, I mean, potentially if anyone has any other ideas for topics.
Yeah.
I feel like I
what we
just
should
gave
do.
I feel like I just gave the most mediocre talk on ESM at the last conference. So I'm like,
Oh,
if you feel like I don't want to give a talk for a little while.
I can pick up the torch of mediocrity.
Jeez. Yeah, maybe we'll do something with NPM. I'll get somebody from the team to do something. That's a good one, yeah. But we're constantly shipping stuff. Yeah, I'm interested in a deadline though. Like having something like a conference coming up that like forces you to ship is always great, especially if you want to like showcase something working. So I can try to find dedicated time to like help this make a reality.
Yep.
I can just start setting arbitrary deadlines if that helps.
It helps when it's like, you know, your face is on a website with like a date attached to it, and there's like a community of people and maybe even people that paid to like watch you be mediocre, which is like you said you did one talk that was mediocre, Ben. I'm like, I've got a like whole like career of mediocre talks. But yeah, no, I'm definitely interested if you do that in like that's great. Like definitely talk about this. I'm want this so badly. This part, like this argument parser, like in core, like I think future me will be happy once we're done this work. So
Yeah, well, a couple things. Number one, if anybody's afraid of giving a mediocre talk, I have a bunny suit and I will loan it to you, and that always, you know, takes it up a notch. And I'm, in terms of deadlines, I'm going to at least say that I'm going to have something done on argument parsing by next tooling meeting. So that's something.
All right.
But you know, that doesn't mean anyone else can't do anything either. Feel free to chat in the Slack or whatever. I've
started having people have been sniffing around performance DDoS attacks on Yargs recently, and I had a security firm reach out to me about starting to open CVEs about performance problems in Yargs. So
I'm sorry.
If I can not be working on Yargs in the next 2 years, or if I can not be working on that part of Yargs.
I feel like it's not a CLI app, like. Oh.
Yeah. And what CVE performance? I'm confused. Is that a thing?
It's a DDoS attack on Yargs.
Oh.
Yeah. If you had, I think I'm just putting at the top of the README, like, don't make this the entry point to your website. It's a command line parser. What are you people doing?
Yeah.
I'm really curious what that would look like, or how people are using it, that would be an issue.
Yeah, something we should have in mind when we implement our argument parser, though, because the hypothetical attack was, it worked. Like, it's just fiddling around with the regex, I could get it so it ran a bajillion times faster. Like it was had to do with backtracking and regexes. So
interesting.
Yeah, we're getting lots of that in lots of our depths. So I feel like you just want to share the burden. It's not that you don't want to be working on Yargs anymore, Ben. You just want like more maintainers, right?
Well, yeah, I just think that I want Node to have a better core library, and I think that this is something we can do that will be a great contribution to Node's core library. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone have anything else on that topic?
Nope.
Okay. Let's see, we've got one last thing here. I think you just added this one, Ben. Windows permissions issues.
Yeah, and this one's a kind of a challenging one because someone who's made some really good contributions to Node feels very strongly that we're overstepping our responsibility in RimRaf by fixing EPERM issues on Windows as we try to delete. This behavior has been brought over from RimRaf. It's been in RimRaf for 8 years. And I believe I'm going to half describe the problem because I've only maybe partially understand the issue, but basically, certain ways one might create files makes them in such a way that I believe it has to do with it's either the owner or the file setting, the chmod setting on the folder. But you basically can easily create a folder with tools like Git, where on Windows only, you now don't have permission to remove it unless you address the permission issue and then try to delete it. So RimRaf for many years has kind of said, oh, you have this specific type of permission issue. I'll try to fix this permission issue and then I'll try to delete it. And this hack is only necessary on Windows. So what's crummy is if you were to remove this behavior that's only there for Windows, suddenly Node's own code base starts leaving Git folders around, as I understand it. So it's like we ourselves run into this bug. I know I would run into this bug with some libraries I maintain because we create Git folders for unit testing. I understand the argument about overstepping your bounds, but I also don't want the whole community to spend the next 10 years on Stack Overflow learning about Windows permission errors for their unit tests and having to fix the permission error in an extra line of their unit tests. So I feel pretty strongly we shouldn't fix the issue. But I feel bad to take this stance because I understand the perspective of the other contributor as well.
So, yeah, I mean, it does sound like it would be kind of a big step back, at least on Windows, if like suddenly it no longer worked kind of the way you would expect it to. Especially since this behavior's been in RimRaf for, like you said, like 8 years or something. I think like, I mean, you can only modify the permissions on a file like that if your own permissions allow it, right? So it's not some kind of like privilege escalation. So that, I mean, that does seem like reasonable behavior to me personally.
Yeah, I think Isaac's argument was that this has been in RimRaf for 8 years, and it kind of creates confusion if it's not there. So it kind of comes back to this argument of, you know, well-defined standard APIs versus ergonomics. And like, there's advantages to standards in defining things well, because we can all kind of write things to the same spec. There's also an advantage to ergonomics, and sometimes the two things are at odds with each other, or don't completely agree. So,
well, it's like user expectation, right? Like
yeah.
That's what you're like. What work backwards from that? Like, what's the expected experience? Like,
I want my files deleted. Yeah, I don't care what operating system. I don't care what operating systems I'm on.
And you've run a function explicitly saying, I would like to remove these, right? So it's not that I would like to do that and like permissively, like with like, I guess, well, that's what we're trying to prevent against it. I mean,
well, and isn't that, I mean, part of like, you know, the rmrf command is that force flag, right? To me, that seems like the kind of thing that
true.
You're saying you want by using that kind of behavior, you know? I think it works differently I think on Unix, it's like it'll succeed even if the file doesn't exist. I think that's what force actually does, but I just mean like, yeah, expectation wise, I would expect from that type of a function, like, yeah, just get rid of these things, like do whatever it takes.
You're muted, Ben. I see your lips moving.
It's just, I wonder if we should try politely following up on the thread one more time. Or maybe we should say, would it make sense speaking as the Node tooling group and say, we talked about this today. We're kind of all in agreement. We'd rather have the permissive behavior. Would you be open to working with us documenting this properly rather than removing the behavior?
Yeah, I would be good with that, especially based on the comments I was skimming of like Isaac and Chris Hiller and such.
I guess maybe as an alternative, like we can make this like an option, like it's on by default, but maybe you could opt into the stricter behavior.
We could all, I feel like that's basically saying no, and it might be better. This might be one case where it's kinder to just say no.
Right.
Because no one, like, I'm just trying to picture the world where you'd set that option, and it feels like now we just have an extra option no one's going to set.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I was just, putting it out there as an idea, but I do kind of agree with you. Like, yeah, maybe it doesn't really make sense to, why would you use that option? Although perhaps this person has a use case.
I'm worried that I don't use Windows at all. So the one place I use Windows is in my test suites. And my concern is we merge this, and then suddenly millions of people have weird bugs in their test suites, and we end up rolling this back in 2 months. So,
right, yeah, that's
yeah.
Feels like you should be like introducing a net new method then, like it's rim r, not af. Rimmer, yeah, like recursively remove, but
it's also a fair point. Speaking of Windows, I actually got a Windows laptop. I got it a couple months ago, but I didn't do anything with it. But for work, I've kind of been tasked with people have trouble developing on our apps on Windows. So I've kind of been tasked with making that work. So I'm probably going to learn a whole lot about Windows and Node in the next little while.
Good
If
luck.
you're not careful, I'm going to bug you every time I'm having Windows test.
We get a lot of like Windows related issues in Create React app too. So kind of figured it wouldn't hurt to have a Windows machine around. Because yeah, I also people report things and I'm like, I don't know, I can't reproduce this. I can't really help you, So anyways, probably have some learnings to share.
Cool. I guess before we follow up on this thread, I should read it very thoroughly, so just to make sure I'm not missing any behavior. It sounds like Isaac summarized it pretty well, though, right? In the thread.
Yeah, especially the TLDR at the end.
you were the last to comment though as well, Ben. So it's kind of,
Yeah. I guess we could wait to see if that gets a response. I just hate leaving these contentious issues around forever, because sometimes that's how you end up with 278 open pull requests, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
I mean, if you want to give it the weekend or something and comment early next week, I think it wouldn't be bad to just pop something else on there saying that we discussed it, at the very least.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just reading Isaac's comment here as well. Seems like he's obviously thought about this a lot in the past, so
yeah,
we defer to him. Okay, so I think that was the last thing that we had on the agenda. Anyone have anything else they want to bring up?
not at this time.
Okay.
No, I'm hoping to. It turns out management's hard, so it's taking a lot of my time. But I'm excited to have a bit more open source. I'm hoping to again have like an hour of open source blocked out each week and just kind of pick a task that's most valuable. So hoping to get in that routine again. So maybe that will be copy recursive. It seems like we have a lot of folks working on command line already, so I'd be willing to take another task.
Cool. Good luck with that, by the way.
Awesome.
Okay. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's good seeing everyone though, and I'm glad to actually be in a stationary location.
Yeah, I'll just on that note, collab summit thoughts are still kind of a thing as our North American area sort of opens up a bit. We might want to just think about it for the future, and whether it's.
Can you explain that a little bit, Joe?
Sorry. Just nothing has happened. Nothing has changed, just in the sense of I know people are talking about you know, getting together in various forms or whatever. So I don't know, just kind of planting the seed. Like if we want to, I would love for a larger collab summit to happen. You know, maybe it wouldn't happen until Austin summer next year, which is the next OpenJS World event. But you know, if we see any opportunities to do something before then, or if we're all at the same event or whatever, let's just, I guess, keep it in mind as planting the seed.
One challenge right now is I'm just waiting for the Canadian border to open more widely, which it kind of affects the four of us getting together at least.
Yeah.
Could be. It sounds like I think it was like July 5th or something. They're getting rid of the quarantine requirement if you're vaccinated. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, I'm driving out to Alberta in the next 2 weeks.
What, really?
Yeah.
Good
Whoa.
luck.
Come visit.
I'll be in Canmore in a week and a bit.
Really? I'll come to Canmore. Canmore is like 45 minutes from Calgary.
Okay, well, I'll message you.
All right, that sounds great. I was saying before you joined the call, actually, that I'm thinking about trying to get out to Toronto in the fall. So we can have our own.
If you're gonna come, like at the same time,
We'll talk so that we.
Well, I see. I mean,
unofficial collab summit.
well, that's what I was about to suggest. Was like if the border does open up, maybe we could all meet in New York or Toronto or something.
Yeah,
Sounds great.
Get a few more people. Maybe just get some people together.
Yep.
go to Niagara Falls.
There we go.
Yeah, go to Buffalo. Buffalo. No one ever does anything.
Yep.
Is there anything in Buffalo?
Well,
They just elected a socialist mayor. I know that.
Okay. I'm sure Buffalo is a great place.
Yeah.
I think we just haven't spent much time there. So.
Oh, right. We're still recording this.
Yeah. We are.
Fine.